Peace, family. Peace, family. Peace, family. Let's tap in. Let's tap in. Crisis to Confidence Home Ownership Workshop Series. Today, we're going to be talking about budgeting with confidence. The goal is to be able to get confident in our finances, get confident in our financial goals, and most importantly, be confident in home ownership. I'm going to be going into the real elements of budgeting, getting over those fears of budgeting, being able to get the rules to building a successful budget, being able to also get some inspiration as well as to why it's so important to budget, and not being very dreamlike or very what's the best word I guess I can come up with it is being very spooky about our finances, where we are afraid to talk about it. We're afraid to look at our bills. We're afraid to look at our bank statements. We're afraid to look at how much money we've spent month over month, but yet we still want to enjoy the pleasures of being able to have finances. Many of us work jobs, many of us strive to build businesses and may have businesses, but we're not clear about what the budget is that it's going to take to be able to achieve these things. So we're going to tap in today. Again, this is the Crisis to Confidence Home Ownership Workshop Series. Today, we're going to be specifically focused on budgeting with confidence. So without further ado, let me just make sure we are live on all our platforms and we are where we need to be. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. All right, move this over a little bit. This here, this here. All right. So, peace, family, peace, family. It's your brother, Mr. West. I am Mr. West on Instagram. I am Mr. West on YouTube. Wesley Mosley on Facebook, and I am underscore Mr. West on Twitter. We tapping in. I appreciate those who are checking this video out, checking the live stream out. My goal here is to be able to give as much information as possible so that we can get clear on our finances, be able to truly own homes. Home ownership is the goal here. Home ownership is also the easiest way we can generate generational wealth. It's the easiest way for us to transfer wealth from one generation to the next, from one family member to the next, so that we don't have to start from ground zero every generation or every new offspring that is put into this planet. We don't have to keep starting from ground zero. So I appreciate you all tapping in. I appreciate you all coming in. Like I said, we live on Instagram, we live on YouTube, we live on Facebook, we're also live on Twitter. So tap in. If you want to see the presentation and you're on the Instagram, come on over to Facebook, come on over to YouTube, come on over to Twitter so that you can actually see the presentation. You can take notes. I have a few slides. I have about 30 slides I want to go over. And then you can ask questions, things like that. So tap in. Peace, everybody that's coming in. I appreciate y'all. So, like I said, we're about to get started. Let me go ahead and get my presentation pulled up here. So, yes, this is the beginning of a Crisis to Confidence Home Ownership Workshop series. This is something that I will be putting on a regular basis. Depending on how this particular workshop goes, this may be something that I do on a weekly basis. This may be something that I do on a bi-weekly basis or monthly basis. So we see. You all tell me what you like and what you want. Give me your takeaways. Let me know how you feel about getting this type of free training, this free type of workshop to be able to excel in your finances. And we're going to grow this thing out because my goal is to be able to impact as many homeowners as possible so that we can stop dreaming, stop panicking when things go wrong, and really get clear, really be prepared, and really prevent financial hardships. Because what I tend to see a lot is that we take up the majority of foreclosure. We take up the majority of having to suffer behind debt. We take up the majority of those who are not confident about our expenses, but yet we want to have the benefits of finances. We want to have the benefits of generational wealth, but we're not real clear about how to achieve it. And the first step that I want to teach us on is budgeting. Budgeting will be your key. Budgeting will be your plan or your roadmap that's going to get you to your financial goals versus trying to figure it out, get it out the mud, uh, wishing and hoping and just praying that something happens. This is a way to actually make something happen for yourself, make something happen for your family, and secure your home, your finances, and your dreams into reality. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So we're going to just kind of give you a little brief overview of what this particular workshop will be about. We're going to have an introduction. I'm going to kind of get into who I am. I'm going to get an introduction into budgeting, getting an introduction into a few things to get us warmed up to budgeting. Many of us are afraid of budgeting. Many of us are afraid of looking at our finances. So we're going to talk about the fears and apprehensions behind budgeting. We're going to get into the facts. We're going to provide some stats, some statistics to let us understand the importance of budgeting, understanding the importance of being able to plan and manage our funds, our finances in a proper way so that we can really get these goals that we have for ourselves financially, really be able to retain our homes when it comes to home ownership. And as well, we're going to get into the different styles of budgeting. There's multiple styles of budgeting. I'm going to cover 5 budgeting styles that are common, that are easily to use right now. You can implement them right now. And then we're also going to break down how to create a successful budget, the rules in budgeting, what to look out for, the 8 elements of a successful budget, and how to put them in place and make it practical so that it doesn't seem cumbersome or so complex that you feel as if this is it for me. This is something I can't handle. This is something I can't achieve on my own. And I'm also going to be able to provide, if you make it to the end of the workshop, the end of the replay, you'll actually be able to get some contact information to be able to get some assistance with building your budget, and also a free tool that can help you start down that path of building your budget so you can really get clear about how much money you have coming in, what bills do you have that's causing your money to go out, and what you have left for your goals, for your savings, for emergencies, for the things that you want. So let's tap in. Like I said, we're going to start with the introduction. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on who I am. So let's get it going. So a little bit about me. I'm not going to read this off verbatim. Actually, let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger for you all. Here we go. So a little bit about me. So I am a home ownership advocate. I am a founder of the Silent Academy. What the Silent Academy was founded for was to provide education, training, and advocacy for homeowners so that we can get clear about our finances, understand our options when it comes to falling behind on our bills, um, being able to avoid or prevent foreclosure. And really the goal is to retain your home, be able to properly be able to transition if you want to sell your home or get from under that debt if you do come across a financial hardship, and how to truly do that with confidence and not just going with what you may see on the internet all the time, going with the advertisements, just taking whatever option is presented to you that benefits only the bank or benefits those who are selling you information, but really getting clear about what it is that is involved in home ownership, the ins and outs, not just buying a home, but being able to maintain a home, being able to safely sell your home or transition or exit your property to be able to get from under debt that you can't or feel overwhelmed with that you're not able to sustain. So I want to start with a quote, one of my favorite quotes from Fred Hampton, which is, a true revolutionary knows that it is not enough to be well informed. We must put our knowledge into action for the betterment of humanity. The reason I like this quote so much is because for me personally, I've been in the mortgage industry since 2008. So we're about 15 years into this industry, working our way up from just answering phone calls all the way up to management, and all in between, as far as the ins and outs of being able to retain your home, ins and outs of being able to recover from a financial hardship, the ins and outs of understanding different perspectives from homeowners and what they've gone through and how to navigate through that crisis with confidence, with the end goal of being clear, being prepared and equipped, and also having a solution that actually is friendly or beneficial for you, not just for those who are looking to protect themselves, but you need to protect yourself as well. So again, I've been in the industry since 2008. My primary specialty in what I've been doing is customer service and education, not only for homeowners, but also for businesses as well, getting clear on processes and being able to help customers really understand what decisions they're making. And making an informed decision is way better than making just any kind of decision or making no decision at all. No decision at all. So let's tap in. That's a little bit about me. You can follow me on Instagram. That's I am dot Mr. West on Instagram. On Twitter is I am underscore Mr. West. And you also can follow me on Facebook, which is Wesley Mosley on Facebook, and my YouTube channel. If you tap in on YouTube right now, you know it's I am Mr. West as well. So let's go ahead and let's get started in the presentation here. So I want to kind of look at a few quotes that will help us get very clear about finances and being able to understand what we're getting into. So the first quote is going to come from former U.S. President Barack Obama. A budget is more than just a series of numbers on a page. It's an embodiment of our priorities. Bernard Anderson, an economist, a budget is not just a collection of numbers, but an expression of our values and aspirations. We have Robert L. Johnson, a businessman and philanthropist. The lack of financial education is a major issue in the Black community. Budgeting is not just about numbers. It's about empowerment and control over our financial destiny. Melody Hobson, who's a financial executive, she states, a budget is the backbone of financial freedom. It empowers us to break free from economic constraints and achieve our dreams. Dave Ramsey, many of us know who Dave Ramsey is. He's number one when it comes to budget management and practical advice to be able to get out of debt. He says that a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. How many of us, when we get to the end of the month, we're like, where did all our money go? We know we get paid every week or we get paid every 2 weeks, so we know our cycle of when we do receive money. But the question becomes, where did the money go? A budget will help you tell your money where to go, so you don't have to wonder where it went. You can get very clear on it. So I like that quote as well. Here's two more. Budgeting is not a restriction. It's a roadmap to financial success. That's from Angela Glover Blackwell, a social advocate. And last and certainly not least, we have the late, great Maggie L. Walker, entrepreneur and civil rights activist, who says budgeting is an act of self-respect and a powerful tool for building generational wealth and economic empowerment. I'm going to read that again. Budgeting is an act of self-respect and a powerful tool for building generational wealth and economic empowerment. One thing that you'll notice with these quotes is that they are kind of similar in nature. They discuss some of the same things. Again, understanding that a budget is about your priorities. It shows you where your priorities are. If you have to, we'll get into the details of this, but a majority of your income is going to things that do not benefit you. If it's going to bills or expenses that don't actually secure your finances in the sense of your home, it's not going to your essential expenses, those important priority bills that you need to make sure are paid every month. And they're going more to your pleasures, more to your so-called wants. We really want to get clear, and it helps us see where we are in life. Again, just as Maggie L. Walker said, it's an act of self-respect. Many of us don't believe too much in ourselves. We don't have a lot of respect for ourselves. So we begin to show that or express that in the way that we spend money, in the way that we carry ourselves, in the way that we take care of our bills and our responsibilities is a reflection of our own self-respect. And when you start taking ownership and accountability for your finances, taking accountability for your decisions, taking accountability for the decisions that you're making, you're really showing yourself an act of self-respect. And budgeting is that first step towards that. And also, many of these quotes are speaking to financial freedom, empowerment, We're talking about being able to get that power back and not feel as if we're helpless, not feeling as if our bills are what we're striving to work for. We're just working to pay bills, working to pay bills, working for responsibilities. No, we really just need to be responsible with our funds, our finances, so that we don't have to be out of control. I say this a lot as well. If you don't control your spending will control you. If you don't control your spending will control you. If your spending is out of control or you have no control over your spending, then who's really controlling your spending? If every time you see an advertisement, you go buy something, who's really in control here? Who's really thriving off of you versus you thriving off of yourself? Many of us want to do for self. Many of us want to build a business. But if we haven't got control of our spending, we're going to get into business and still be a slave to that. We're still going to be in a position where we can't be successful because we don't have any control or we don't have any awareness of where our money is going, where our money is, how our money is coming in, what are our sources of income, what are our expenses. How many of us check our account regularly? I'm talking about checking our account all day long, just making sure the numbers haven't changed. And the reason we do that is because we have no control over our spending. We have no idea what really is due. We have no idea what the cycle dates of these bills. And we have auto pay set up as a convenience. But is it really convenient when you're going to the gas pump to be able to get gas and you forgot about that bill that's about to come out, and then you go to put your card in and it doesn't work? I've been there. I've been there. We got subscriptions and things that we didn't sign up for, forgot about free trials that we didn't cancel. And then when you go to get something that you need, you can't go get it. Another sign of that is that if you're going to the gas tank or you're going to buy something to eat, or if you're going to make any type of purchase and you're using your last little bit of money that's available, is that truly financial literacy? Is that true financial freedom if you don't have control over where your money is going, or you feel as if you have to use all your money to get everything that you want? That means you don't have a plan. What they say, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. If you fail to budget, then you're budgeting for a failure. I'm going to put it that way for this class today. So we want to get real clear about our budget. Budgeting is a key, is a tool, but it's also a roadmap. I like that quote when it speaks about a budget is a roadmap to your financial freedom. The budget is a backbone to your financial freedom. And it's very important, because when you think about your backbone, that's what keeps you upright. That's what allows you to have structure. That's what allows you to walk and be able to move and maneuver in a proper way. If you had no backbone, you would have no control over your body, and where the wind could just blow you around all over the place because you have nothing to support your structure. So a budget supports your goal. Your budget supports your financial freedom. Your budget supports what it is that you really have a priority over. If you don't have any priorities, then what are you really getting done? What are you really getting done? So let's continue on. Let's continue on. So those are just a few quotes to help us get an understanding and just really get inspired to understand why budgeting is important. Let me make this smaller again. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So we're going to get into now the fears and apprehensions of budgeting. So in the comments, you can always type in here, what is a fear of yours? If you see any of these fears, I'm going to go over about 5 different common fears or reservations or apprehensions behind budgeting. And you just tell me 1 through 5. You just put in the comments 1, 2, 3, or 5. Which one of these fears do you have when it comes to budgeting? So the first one, the fear of facing financial reality. The fear of facing financial reality. When you actually write your bills out and you write your income sources and what you have coming in every month, if you see that you have more going out than you have coming in, that could bring some fear into your heart. That can make you very discouraged and make you like, I don't want to look at this anymore. Many of us check our bank account balance, but we don't check the statement to see what did we spend. We don't look at that. We don't scroll down. I have Chase, so if you scroll down, you can see how much you spent in that month. And many of us don't want to look at that part. But we think that if we don't look at it, if we don't pay attention to our spending, if we don't check our bank statements, we don't review the transactions that we've been making, looking at the trends and what are we spending more money on that we shouldn't be spending money on, what are we spending too much money on, we think that it's just going to go away. Just like we say as well when it comes to law or the speed limits and things like that. If you get a ticket, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Because you didn't know or you say you didn't know does not make it not applicable to you. Just because you didn't know what the law was does not mean that that law does not apply to you and that you shouldn't adhere to that. It's up to you and it's your responsibility to know what it is that you're getting into. It's your responsibility to know what exactly you're taking on. What is your responsibility and how you're going to take care of it is yours. That's you for you to take ownership of. The second fear, perceived complexity. And I'm going to go into detail about these fears. I'm just going to be able to show you these fears first. And then we're going to go into what these actual fears mean. So, perceived complexity. Many of us think that we got to have um, multiple apps and we got to do a lot of things to be able to get our budget straight, and we got to be able to sign in into our accounts and give all of our information into these applications in order to get a budget. When simply you can take a piece of paper and write down what you have coming in, what you have going out, subtract the income from the outcome, and see what you have left. And that is a simple budget. We'll get into the different budgeting styles, but we believe that things are harder than what they are. We anticipate struggle before the struggle even appears. Many of the, and I'll say this about fear. So my particular acronym for fear is facing emotions altering reality. Facing emotions altering reality, meaning that you may feel as if something is way more difficult than what it really is, and that will stop you from even going to see the truth behind it. In all actuality, and as you're going to learn in this workshop, budgeting is actually very easy. It's actually hard when you don't know where your money is at. It's actually hard when you don't have a budget and you're guessing every month or every week or you're guessing every year how are you going to get to your goals, or how are you going to take that vacation, or how are you going to buy that new car, how are you going to buy that new house. If you're just guessing and freestyling, then your results are going to be in that same form. You're going to get freestyle results. You're not going to get exactly what you're looking for because you don't have a plan that's exactly appropriate to what it is that you're accomplishing. So number three, fear of restrictions. Many of us feel like budget is going to make, oh man, if I have a budget, then I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. But that's not true, because if you build into your budget what it is that you want to get done, then you will be able to get what you get done. But just understanding that that budget keeps you on track. It helps you not get too loose. It helps you not get caught up or blindsided by expenses that you did not write down or were unaware of. But if you are aware of it, then at that point you can handle it. You can address it. You cannot, as a doctor, if you will go to the hospital, if you don't tell them what symptoms that you have, if you don't tell them what pain you have, and specifically where do you feel the pain, how long have you felt the pain, where else do you have, where else is the problem residing, how will you get the proper diagnosis? How will that doctor be able to prescribe you the right medicine or the right treatment if you're not specific and clear about what it is that you need? That's what a budget does. A budget helps you get clear so you know where you need to make adjustments. Then we have number four, which is a big one. I don't know if this one should probably be number two. I know the fear of financial reality is number one, but maybe the lack of financial education is number two, especially for our community. We're in a big time. We're in a major time right now where where financial literacy is big. Financial literacy is number one. Everyone wants to talk about generational wealth. They want to tell you about the credit ways to get new loans and business credit. They want to tell you about the wealth gap and how to build a wealth standard. They want to tell you, okay, invest in this and invest in that, get in the stock market, get your precious metals, get your collectibles. But if you don't know where your money is going, you could be putting yourself in a further hole. But many of us are stuck in our emotions in the sense that we're trying to get rich quick or we're trying to get free fast. When in all actuality, it's a process, it's a progress that has to be made. You have to continuously work towards your goals. You're not going to get rich overnight. And if you do, anything fast don't last. Everything slow is for sure. So if you rushing to be able to get to your goals, then what you going to do when you get to the goal? What are you going to do when that setback shows up? What are you going to do when that adversity shows up? And then at that point, you got to step back and say, oh man, I got to start from ground zero again. But if you have a plan, if you have a budget, you're clear and you're honest with yourself about your budget, you're realistic about your budget, everything that you want can be attained. There is no impossible. The only thing that's impossible, the only thing that is impossible is failure. You only fail when you quit. Success is a part of the process. So if you're growing as a person, if you're constantly seeking information, if you're constantly trying to educate yourself, if you're constantly studying your finances, you're constantly studying the environment that you're in or the way that you're doing things, you have no choice but to improve. But again, we get kind of spooky. We think that, oh, that one person, that one guru that you listen to, oh, they told me one thing and I'm going to be able to take this one gem and I'm going to be rich tomorrow. Or now I'm going to be able to get clear my finances tomorrow. When the reality is, you have to do the research. The reality is that you have to apply what you learn and then you got to continuously work at it. You got to be consistent at it. So that's where number 4, the lack of financial education. Like I said, we're in a big financial literacy movement right now, especially in the black community. We have tons of experts, so-called gurus, telling us many things: how to get business credit, how to get this loan, buy this home, use this type of loan to get a home. But you don't, if you haven't done the research, if you're just listening to people and just trusting what they're saying, then at one point you're going to run into a thing or an obstacle that they did not present to you. You're going to run into an obstacle that they did not present to you that's going to cause you a financial letdown. And that's going to lead you to number 5, past negative experiences. So now when you get disappointed, now when that guru didn't tell you every step of the process, they gave you the overview of what you should do and you took that and ran with it, at that point now you feel discouraged. Now you're like, oh man, everybody's lying. Oh, that person didn't really, they scamming me. No, you scammed yourself. You scammed yourself. You cut yourself short. You prevented your success. So these are these 5 fears that we're going to talk over. So let's get into a little detail about it. So the first one, the fear of facing financial reality. Budgeting requires homeowners to confront their financial situation, including debts, spending habits, and areas where they may have overspent. This can be intimidating and uncomfortable for some, leading to avoidance. So we spoke on that a little bit, that we think that if we don't look at our bills, if we don't look at our spending, if we don't check to see how much we've spent this month, if we're not checking our, even if we're not checking our account balances, and we just going and just thinking that we're going to keep it all in my head. I know what I spent yesterday. I know how much I got left. I'm going to just go to the cash register and just swipe. But that's not reality, because what if you have that subscription that you forgot about that came out right before you went to go swipe your card? Then what you going to do? So we have to think. We have to really be clear about what it is that we're doing with our finances. And mainly, we have to get out of this fear thing and thinking that we can just avoid the reality of life, avoid the reality of our finances, that we're going to still get ahead. Again, like I stated before, if you don't tell the doctor what's going on with you, if you're not clear about what it is, that where the pain is, what you actually feel, they can't give you the proper diagnosis. So if you're avoiding telling the truth to yourself, honest about your finances, yeah, you won't hit those financial goals. You won't hit those financial goals because you're not taking into consideration what's going on right now. So you focus on the future, but you're not clear about the present. You're not even looking back at the past to see what you were doing before and what needs to be corrected so that you really can achieve those goals in the future. So that's the fear of facing reality. The next one, perceived complexity. Some homeowners may view budgeting as complicated and time consuming, assuming it involves extensive calculations and tracking. This perception can deter them, from starting the budgeting process. So because we get so stuck in our head, because we get so wrapped up in our emotions and we get thinking about what can happen and what's not gonna happen, and oh, this not gonna work, and I've never done this before, we don't even get started. We don't even begin to try to even build a budget. We don't even begin to start looking at our finances and trying to write it down so that we can see what's going on. And again, it gets back to that avoidance. That this perception can deter them from starting the budgeting process. When the key is just write it down. Write it down. Let's look at it. Let's not be afraid of it, because at the end of the day, we're not afraid to swipe the card. We're not afraid to make the investment sometimes. We're not afraid to go on the trip. We're not afraid to buy the car, but we're afraid to pay the bill when the note comes. The next one, fear of restrictions. Homeowners may fear that creating a budget will restrict their spending and limit their ability to enjoy certain luxuries and treats. This fear can lead to resistance in establishing a budget. I'm going to read that again. Homeowners may fear, that creating a budget will restrict their spending and limit their ability to enjoy certain luxuries and treats. This fear can lead to resistance in establishing a budget. So if we are afraid to budget or plan our finances out or even write our finances down because we have to then face reality that we have more outcome than we have income, we think that, oh, okay, if I don't write my bills down, I still can go do what I want to do. But then when you do what you want to do and then you realize that those responsibilities show back up, now you're stressed. Now you panic. Now you're in a time of crisis because you wanted to do what you wanted to do all the time. There has to be a balance between needs and wants. There has to be a balance between luxuries and responsibilities. But if you plan, if you budget, you can budget in some of those treats and luxuries. You can budget in some of those wants along with your needs. Not neglecting your wants, because you want to still live. We'll get into about being realistic and being able to be flexible in your budget, because it's not about restricting you. It's about keeping you on track for what you say your goals are. That's the whole point of a budget, is to help you get clear about what it is that you want and actually have a way to get it. Next, lack of financial education. Many homeowners may have, many homeowners may not have received proper financial education, leaving them feeling uncertain about how to create and manage a budget effectively. This lack of knowledge can create anxiety and hesitation. That's many of us. I know getting into the mortgage industry, I didn't know much about home ownership. I just knew you can buy a house, you pay your mortgage, then you sell it if you want to make a profit, or you sell it when you're ready to buy another one. But when I got into the mortgage industry, I realized that there's a lot of things that happen after you get those keys. There's a lot of points in the process. There's a lot of moving parts, I should say, in the process. You got different departments in a bank. You got multiple expertise within that bank and things that you need to be aware of that can affect your ability to pay your mortgage. Many people are not aware of what escrow is, which is your taxes and insurance portion of your mortgage payment. Many homeowners are not aware of the interest, or aware of if their interest is adjustable or not, or if it's going to change. Many individuals are not concerned or worried about how much of their mortgage payment is going to principal when they send that mortgage payment in. Many homeowners are not aware that your mortgage payment is the minimum amount that you can pay, and you can pay more to get it paid off quicker and not pay so much interest. But if you don't know, that's no excuse. You need to go seek that information. But again, it's about, uh, we don't want to blame the past. We don't want to say, oh, well, I wasn't taught that in school, or My parents didn't teach me that, or I'm the first generation of this, that, and the third. That's still no excuse. Yeah, that may be the reality, but that's still your responsibility to do the research. It's your responsibility to look into it. So that lack of financial education is big for us. That's the reason why I kind of got in, not kind of, but that's the reason why I got into this type of business and doing this type of business on my own, to be able to provide education where we have the gaps. Budgeting is one of those gaps. And then lastly, past negative experiences. Some homeowners may have attempted budgeting in the past and encountered difficulties or setbacks, leading to discouragement and a reluctance to try again. That's many of us. Many of us have tried. Many of us have um, came up with different methods to be able to save money, and then we found something came up, and then we had to spend all that money that we worked hard to save, and then we were like, okay, why should I start again? It took me so long to save this amount of money for this trip, and then I had something going on with my car, and now I got to use all that money that I was going to use for my trip on my car. So I'm not going to try again. I'm not going to do it again. When in all actuality, we want to face that adversity and be able to try it again. We want to try again. Don't give up. So let's get into some facts. Let's get into some stats. Let's get into some facts. Let's get into some stats about budgeting. So homeowners who actively budget and track their expenses are 40% less likely to face foreclosure than those who do not maintain a budget. 40% less likely to face foreclosure. Why? Because you know what your bills are. You have now created priorities in your budget to make sure that your mortgage payment is paid on time. I focus on home ownership, and that's really the basis of this workshop series, to speak about home ownership and being able to prevent foreclosure. Because I spoke about a stat before that 80% of families or homeowners in foreclosures are in the black and brown community. It goes back to when we talk about the lack of financial education. Financial education for black and brown communities is not advertised or prevalent or even put as a priority. We're more focused on, let me work a job, let me just get freedom, let me get liberated. But we're not understanding the keys and the tools to be able to really unlock that liberation, unlock that freedom, really get ahead, not thinking woe is me, but let's see what can I do to get myself and my family out of this crisis, out of this situation of unawareness or confusion. According to a study by the Federal Reserve, 75% of homeowners who successfully prevented foreclosure attributed their success to effective budgeting and financial planning. 75%. That's almost 100. That's literally a quarter away from 100. That means the vast majority of homeowners who successfully prevented foreclosure, not just attempted to do it, but they actually achieved the goal of avoiding or preventing foreclosure. They attributed their success to effective budgeting and financial planning. Homeowners who prioritize mortgage payments within their budget and consistently make on-time payments are 80% more likely to avoid foreclosure during times of financial hardship. So I want to touch on that as well, because when we talk about foreclosure, when we talk about falling behind on our payments, the top 3 reasons that homeowners fall behind on their payments is or why homeowners face foreclosure is not making payments on time. Not making payments on time. A financial hardship, meaning a life-altering situation where, let's say, you lose your job. Let's say you have a family member that passes away. Let's say you have a reduction in income. Let's say you have medical expenses that you weren't expecting. Let's say you have a new child. Many times we bring a new life in and we don't understand the gravity of the expenses that come with that child, and that sets us back because we don't have a budget. We didn't plan for it, you know? I think about a song that Kanye West had where he says, I never understood Planned Parenthood because I never met nobody planning to be a parent in the hood. We got to plan for these things. We can't just keep living a life of just going and freestyling, and then once the reality comes to check us, we lost. We don't know what to do. Now we got to rely on government assistance. Now we have to rely on family members that didn't plan to help us like that. They didn't plan to provide for us like that. But because we didn't properly plan, because we didn't do the due diligence and research before we made a decision or made a commitment or involved ourselves in activities that's going to cause us to take on a commitment that we weren't ready for, we then suffer the consequences. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, reported that homeowners who engaged in foreclosure prevention programs and followed a budgeting plan were able to reduce their risk of foreclosure by up to 50% compared to those who did not participate in such programs. So we can reduce that risk by up to 50% just by budgeting or going along with foreclosure prevention programs. The goal is to be able to keep our homes. The goal is to be able to retain the home and keep the home and pass it down to our next generation. But we can't do that if we don't have a plan for that. We can't do that if we're not taking the necessary steps to be able to, if we do have a financial hardship, to be able to recover from that financial hardship. I want to get into a couple definitions of a few words that I'm going to be using, words that you may use as well, that you may be using in the wrong context, and just get clear about what it is that we're saying, because words have power. So if you don't know or understand the words that you're using, you could be condemning yourself or causing a unnecessary resistance for yourself to be able to get the goals that you want in life, to go get the things that you want out of life. So let's look at that first word, budget. So we're talking about budgeting. So what is a budget? A budget is a financial plan that outlines projected income and expenses over a specific period. It serves as a guide to manage and allocate funds effectively, ensuring that spending aligns with financial goals. So we may have goals. We may say, I want to buy a house. I want a four-bedroom house. I want to have three bathrooms in it. I want a two-car garage. And then when you look at how much it costs, you have to then think about, okay, what do I need to do to be able to achieve this goal? You can't just wake up and roll out of bed and say, I'm going to go buy a house. You need to plan for that. You need to be able to get ahead of that decision in the sense that, okay, how much money do I have now? What can I afford? What type of mortgage payment can I afford? Because the mortgage payment that you want, the house that you may want may not align with the mortgage payment that you can afford. I'm going to say that again. The dream house that you want may not be aligned with the mortgage payment that you can afford. And that doesn't mean you don't strive for that dream house. That means you just need to get more income so that you can have a better outcome. Again, it's not that you change your goal. You change your approach. You refine your approach so that you can achieve that goal. If you're working a job, a 9 to 5, and it's paying you enough money to afford a $1,500 mortgage payment, but your dream house is going to cost you a $2,500 mortgage payment, then you have a decision to make. Are you going to change the dream house that you want? You're going to downsize your dreams? Or are you going to increase your effort, increase your effectiveness to be able to bring in more income so that you can afford that? Something to think about. Something to think about. Let's look at this other word. Afford. How many of us say, I can't afford that? Or we tell our children, we can't afford that. Well, let's see, what does afford mean? To afford something means to have the financial means or capability to purchase or pay for it without causing financial strain or hardship. To afford something means to have the financial means or capability to purchase or pay for it without causing financial strain or hardship. So sometimes we say, we can't afford that, but then we find something else that costs more than that. Or we find something that doesn't cost as much, but we buy it a bunch of times. So could you really afford? So let's say if you needed to get into a class or you need to book a consultation with someone to help you with your budget. You say, I can't afford a consultation. But yet we can spend money on things that we don't need. So you really can afford it. It's just not a priority. So we have to be careful about the words that we're saying. Are we saying that we can't afford it because it's going to set us back from the plan that we have from ourselves? Or are we saying we can't afford it because it's going to stop us from getting the things that we want? Even if it's something that we need, we may not pursue what we need because we don't want to miss out on what we want. We talked about that earlier. The fear of restrictions, the fear of feeling as if a budget is going to make it hard for us to get the luxuries and treats that we may want in life, when in all actuality, it's not that you restrict you from getting them, it's just that you haven't built it into your budget to do so. Let's look at that word expensive. Let's look at that word expensive. Expensive refers to something that requires a significant amount of money or resources to acquire or maintain, often beyond what is considered reasonable or affordable for a person's financial situation. So when something is expensive, we're referring to something that requires a significant amount of money or resources to acquire or maintain. So when we talk about home ownership, you could want a house, like we said before. Let's say you want a house where the mortgage payment is going to be $2,500, but your budget says that you can only afford a $1,500 budget, $1,500 mortgage. Then that house may be too expensive for you right now. So that means some changes need to be made. Either we need to cut some of these bills back, or we need to add in more income. Or maybe we need to do both. Maybe we need to get more income in the house, in our budget, and eliminate some of the waste that's in our budget as well. Take some of those unnecessary expenses out of our budget as well. This next word, goal. A goal is a specific and measurable objective that someone aims to achieve within a certain time frame. In financial terms, goals may include saving for a major purchase, paying off debt, or building an emergency fund. So what are your goals? When it comes to your finances, what are your goals? Is your goal, I know for me, I write down my goals every year. Really, I do my goals every month. I try to write some new goals down every month because I actually want to accomplish what it is that I'm setting for myself. But if you have a financial goal or you have a financial aspiration, then you need to really be clear about how you're going to achieve that. So like I said, what are your goals? Is your goal to purchase a home? Is your goal to pay off some debt? Is your goal to pay off student loan debt? Is your goal to be able to build a savings? Is your goal to build an emergency fund? And keep in mind, I'm saying that separate because they are two different things. An emergency fund is not your savings, and your savings is not your emergency fund. Some of us get it confused. We think, okay, I got a savings account, and I'm going to use that to be able to help me in a time of need. But what about when you want to make a big purchase? Where you going to pull that money from? We'll get into that a little bit further down. So we want to get clear about our goals, and then make sure that our budget is aligned with those goals, which we're going to continue to reiterate in this workshop here. I think a little bit got a little ahead of myself. Let's look at this word debt. Some of us are afraid of this word debt. Debt is an amount of money borrowed by an individual or entity from another party with an obligation to repay the borrowed amount, usually with interest over a specified period. Let me read that again because I kind of fumbled it a little bit. Debt is an amount of money borrowed by an individual or entity from another party with an obligation to repay the borrowed amount, usually with interest over a specified period of time. So we're talking about our loans, student loans, our mortgages. We're talking about our car notes. We're talking about maybe a contract that we may have with a contractor. That is a debt. We are telling them that we're going to pay a certain amount before pay a certain amount for some work that's getting done. So that you now have created a debt that is against that. So we want to be clear about what it is a debt is. Debt is not a bad thing. A debt is not an unnatural thing, but we don't want to be overcome or oppressed by the debt. And then lastly, let's look at this word freedom. So again, we talk about freedom a lot. Freedom is a goal for many of us. We want to be liberated. We want to be free. We want to be free to do whatever we want. But let's understand freedom from a financial aspect. It says freedom in financial terms refers to having the ability to make choices and decisions without being constrained by financial burdens or obligations. It involves having control over one's financial situation and the flexibility to pursue personal and financial aspirations. I'm going to read that again because there's some key words in there I want to make sure that you all pull out as well. I appreciate y'all tapping in. Again, this is the Budgeting with Confidence Workshop. I'm doing this live on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Going live. I have a whole presentation here, some slides. So if you want to tap in, feel free to tap into the YouTube, to the Facebook, as well as the Twitter to be able to see the presentation as well. But yeah, so freedom, let's go back into that definition. Freedom in financial terms refers to having the ability to make choices and decisions without being constrained by financial burdens or obligations. It involves having control over one's financial situation and the flexibility to pursue personal and financial aspirations. So freedom doesn't mean just doing whatever you want. Freedom has to do with having control over yourself so that you can do the things that you really want to do. You have free will, but without any standard, without having some borderlines or a guideline or a plan or a roadmap, then you have the freedom to walk wherever you want to. But will you get to your destination? Will you get to your goals? Are you making the best financial decisions because you're just freely spending your money however you want to? Something to think about. Something to think about. So let's get into a few budgeting styles. So not every budget is created equal. Not every budget is created equal, and not every budget will work for you. So you have to figure out what style of budgeting do you have. What style of budgeting works for you, not the style of budgeting that works for me, or the budgeting style that works for other people. What budgeting style will work for you? That's the key. So let's look at a few. So the 5 that we're going to discuss today will be traditional budgeting, zero-based budgeting, the 50-30-20 budgeting, envelope budgeting, and percentage-based budgeting. All 5 of these are effective. All 5 of these work. And there's more. There's more ways to budget. Again, this is not a cookie cutter workshop. I just want to provide you with some examples. Some of us are not aware of or have never budgeted before. So I want to give us a foundation so that we can start looking into these. We can start looking into budgeting. We can look into these styles and see if it will work. And the thing about budgeting as well, that just because you start with let's say you start with a traditional budget, you may say, okay, that might be too loose for me. I need to go to a zero-based budget. We'll get into what that is. Or you may say, okay, that might be a little too restrictive for me. Again, a budget is not meant to be restrictive, but a budget does keep you honest. It does keep you on track. And some of us may want a little bit more flexibility in our budget, a little bit more grace in our budget. So you may say, well, I want to do it from an envelope perspective. I need to physically see the money in the bucket that I'm going to use to pay this bill. Some of us like percentages. Some of us say, well, I received this amount of money. I want this percent to go here. I want to put this percent towards this, to charity, or I want to put this percent towards my vacation. This percentage is going to go to saving for college or saving for this investment. So all of these styles are effective, but you need to look into them. And as I give you the details about these particular 5, you also can look into see what other budgeting styles are out there, and then you can decide which one works for you. And then the main thing is that once you look into it, is that you need to execute. And let's see what it is that is how is it going to work for you? Does it actually work for you? Because it may sound good, it may look good, but does it actually work good? That's the key. So let's start with traditional budgeting. This is the most common budgeting style where homeowners create a detailed plan by categorizing income and expenses, tracking spending, and setting financial goals for the future. So again, this is what we talked about. I kind of breezed over this earlier, just writing down how much money you have coming in, writing down your bills to show how much is going out, and then you show what is left at the end of the month. That's a traditional budget. It's simple. You can do it on a piece of paper. You don't need any technology to do that. You just need a paper, a pencil, and you need to be able to have your bills with you, and you can write it all out. So that's a traditional budget. It's simple. I'm not going to harp on that too long. But this is the easiest and the most common way to budget. Is it the most effective? That's for you to decide. You have to put it into practice and see what works for you. I've used traditional budgeting before. And as I grow and as I learn, I realize I may need a few more parameters. I may need a few more uh, inputs to put on this budget that's going to help me get a better output. So it's like, okay, traditional budgeting may be how you start. It doesn't mean that's how you end. You may have a traditional budget for your bills, and you may have a different type of budget for the things that you want, your investments. We live in a country that they budget. If the country that you live in budget, if the business that you work for or the company that you work for budget, why don't you have a budget? They budgeted for your salary. They budgeted for how much they got to pay in taxes. They budgeted for how much they have to spend to be able to give you provide health care for you. But why aren't we budgeting? We have to think about that. Let's look at this one. This is a little bit more, what I would like to say is more detailed. I don't want to say that it's more restrictive, but this gets you very clear. If you are really trying to get out of a situation in terms of debt, if you really are trying to get under real control of your spending, zero-based budgeting will really help you with that because it leaves no room for error. And it says here, in this approach, homeowners allocate every dollar of their income to specific categories, ensuring that their expenses match their income. At the end of the budgeting period, the goal is to have $0 left unallocated, not spent. Let's be clear. It says unallocated or undistributed or not placed somewhere to be able to benefit the goal, benefit the purpose of having a budget. So there is no room for error. There is no room for guessing. There is no room for freestyling. And it really eliminates the room for you to miss a payment. It eliminates the room for you to miss a bill. So zero-based budgeting, again, I put it as number 2 because I wanted to go from a traditional budget, which can get a little loose because we project our income a lot of times. We say, okay, well, I think on average I make this a month, and then on average these are what my bills are. This zero-based budgeting leaves no room for error. You're looking at your bills. You're putting exactly what it is that you made this week. You're putting exactly what you made this month, exactly what you have to pay this month, so that you know exactly where your money is going to go. Just like Dave Ramsey said at the beginning of this presentation on the quote, a budget tells your money where to go instead of having you wonder where it went. So zero-based budgeting, you're telling your money exactly where it needs to go. Even if you have anything left after you have your bills, you're telling that extra, okay, I want to put that to savings. I want to put that to emergency funds. I want to put that to charity. I want to put that to an investment. I want to put that to this new car that I want to buy. You know exactly where your money is, and you're not leaving anything on the table for you to mess yourself up. So this may work for you as well. Next, 50-30-20 budgeting. What is this? This budgeting style divides income into 3 categories: 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings and debt repayment. So 50% on needs or essential expenses. And I want to kind of go into what is considered a essential expense. Because some of us, we kind of think we know what we're talking about when it comes to essential expenses, and we like, okay, I don't know what's essential to you, maybe different for me, but some people may say, well, eating out every week is essential. I need to be able to get a little break. I want to go to a nice restaurant once a week. That you may feel like that's essential, and then in actuality, when it comes to budgeting, that's more of a want. That's a discretion. You don't need to eat out. You just want to real bad. You just want to real bad, but 50% for needs, essential expenses like housing and utilities. 30% for wants, discretionary spending like entertainment and dining out. 20% for savings and debt repayment. That's key, because many of us take on a lot of debt. We get new credit cards. We get personal loans. We take out student loans. We take out business loans. We get business credit, but we don't have the goal to repay it. But how do you expect to increase your financial power, increase your financial freedom if you're not responsible with the things that we're taking on? So this is the 50-30-20 rule. Like I said, this is splitting up your income into 3 categories, which is needs, wants, and then savings/repayment of debt. Next, we have envelope budgeting. With this method, homeowners allocate cash into labeled envelopes for different spending categories. Once the money in the envelope is used up, there is no more funds. There are no more funds available for that category until the next budgeting period. This particular budgeting style works well for people who have like a cash-based income business. You know, like your waitresses, your waiters, um, let's say if you do like you have side hustles, or if your business receives a lot of cash, this helps you with that because you can just put the cash. You don't have to worry about putting it in the bank, so to speak, and be able to then allocate it that way. You can just literally see your money. Okay, I'm gonna put. You made $20. I'm gonna put $5 here. I'm gonna put $5 there, and I'm gonna build it up for my goals. Envelope budgeting also works well when you want to help like saving for something that you want. If you're using this budgeting method, and I want to give some context to this as well, that you can use multiple budgets within your budget, multiple budgeting styles within your financial planning. Let me put it that way. So you may use this envelope budgeting for your wants. You may say, I'm gonna put my want, I'm gonna take cash out, and once I use this cash, my cash is gonna be for my wants. So I'm gonna put some here for entertainment, some for eating out, some for whatever type of thing, vices you may want to pay for. You can put it in the envelope. That way, once you use that money in that envelope, then you don't go back to the bank and get more cash out and put it in the envelope. You then limit yourself until the next budgeting period where you can then take out cash and repeat, rinse and repeat that process. But again, it also works for those who have who get paid in cash, those who may not have a bank account, those who feel more comfortable seeing their money when it comes to figuring out where they want to pay the bills and how they want to handle that. Some of us are very visual and hands on, so we rather put the money in the envelope when we know that we've done what we're supposed to do. We've done the good deed, so to speak. Then we have percentage-based budgeting. Excuse me. This is similar to the 50-30-20, but this particular percentage basis, you really get to decide for yourself what your percentages will be. So it says in this approach, homeowners allocate a fixed percentage of their income to different expense categories. For example, 30% for housing, 50% for transportation, 10% for savings, etc. This follows this allows for flexibility based on income fluctuations. So for our self-employed homeowners, for those who are like freelancers or contractors, where you don't receive a specific pay stub or a specific income amount guaranteed to you every week. You may not work 40 hours a week every week, and you have a different scale of income month over month. Percentage base helps you with that because it eliminates the excuse that you can't save or you can't pay your bills. You say, I'm gonna take 30% of this check that I received, or 30% from this invoice that I got paid for, and I'm gonna put it to housing, 15% to transportation, 10 to savings, 5 to emergency funds, 20% to an investment that I need to put in. When you have a business, you also have to you can look at this budgeting style as well, because you can say, when I do receive income from a transaction, I'm gonna take 5% and put it towards my marketing. I'm gonna put 10% to upgrading my website. I'm gonna put 10% towards charity. I'm gonna put 10% towards hiring someone to get some work done for you or anything like that. So this percentage style works for those who may not have a fixed amount that they make, but they want to create fixed percentages as far as where they want to put the money. So it's a good way to look at it from that perspective as well. So again, just keeping in mind that these budgeting styles are not cookie cutter, and you don't have to just pick one. You can use multiple styles. You have to, again, what I want to reiterate is you have to see for yourself. Do the research for yourself. You may know of a budgeting style that I didn't talk about that is effective for you. And if you do, put it in the comments. Definitely share that information, because it's all about each one teach one. We all can reach one. And the things that I cover in this particular workshop is not for everyone, but you can get you a foundation. It gets you started. It opens up the door for you to be able to do that. So let's get into creating a budget. So we talked about the fears, We gave you some facts and some stats about why budgeting is important. We gave you some quotes to be able to help us and be inspired of why we need to budget. But now let's really get into how you do it. So we had some budgeting styles. We talked about the styles, but how do we really get into it? And what I've done is I put together 5 rules when it comes to building a budget. Now these rules are not rules in the sense that, okay, you have to have this and you have to, you have to save for this and you have to spend money on that. These rules are going to help you be able to build a budget so that you can be successful in budgeting. So there's room in here for you to do what works for you. But this is going to give you a foundation or an outline. So the rule number 1 is creating a comprehensive budget. And what that means is that, which I'll go into the details of it, but a comprehensive budget is something that encapsulates your entire financial reality. You're able to look at all the income that's coming in, all the bills that you have going out, all of the goals that you have. You want to make sure that your budget includes everything, because if you leave something out, you're leaving yourself open to the risk of forgetting it. You're leaving yourself open to not addressing the problem or addressing the responsibility that you have. Number 2, prioritize essential expenses. That should be the first thing on your budget, are your needs. Your wants are the last thing that you need to be concerned about. Not that you don't concern yourself with it, but it's not a priority. What's important, now I use this illustration on a post I did on Instagram, and I said, what's more important? The new shoes that came out, the new outfit that came out, the new bag or the new wallet or belt or whatever it is? Is it the new car that came out? Or is it about having a closet to put that new those new clothes in, those new shoes in, having a garage that you can park? What's more important at the end of the day is your house. What's more important is your transportation to get to work or get to your job. So you have to be clear about that. Okay? So let's see here. Let me come back here. So yeah, number 3, allocate for savings and emergency fund. Again, I want you to understand that savings and your emergency fund are 2 separate things. Your savings is used for investments. Your savings are used for a vacation that you want to take. Your emergency fund is for when you lose income or you have a financial setback or you have an unexpected expense. Let's say some car repairs that come up that you weren't planning on. Let's say you had a tire blowout. You need to be able to have that emergency fund that doesn't pull from your regular income or your bills. It doesn't pull from your savings and the goals that you have, the investments that you want to make. You have a separate fund or a separate account that's just for emergencies. In that emergency could be enough to be able to cover some mortgage payments if you did lose your job for a couple months, or you got sick and you weren't able to work and you're in a business, you got something to still cover all your bills. That's what that emergency fund is. If all you have is a savings, one savings, an emergency comes up, you're now putting yourself at risk of exhausting your savings for that investment that you need to make. You're risking exhausting the savings that you need for that child that you want to bring into the planet, or for that college fund that you wanted, or the college tuition that you wanted to pay for your child, for that new car that you say you want, for those new clothes that you say you need, or whatever it is. So you want to make sure that you separate a savings and your emergency fund. Number 4, track and review regularly. Now that's key. We'll get into why that's key in a minute. But your budget is, once you make your budget, you don't just make the budget then walk away. You should be looking at that budget all the time. My rule of thumb is you review and update your budget every time you make payments. Every time you make a mortgage payment, you need to go look at your budget to see, okay, what adjustments can I make? Because things can fluctuate, things can change. And if you don't adjust or constantly review your budget and constantly make adjustments and work on that budget every month or every week, however your frequency that you choose, then at that point you're leaving yourself open to being able to miss out on opportunities for you to excel, miss out on opportunities for you to identify wasting your budget, or identify where you need to make some changes and increase a few things, or reposition or redistribute or reallocate funds in a different position to be able to be successful. And then lastly, be realistic and flexible. Again, budgeting is not meant to make you restricted. It's not meant to stop you from getting those luxuries and those treats and those wants and only focusing on your needs. But you do want to be real about how much money you have coming in. You do want to be honest about the bills that you are responsible for. You do want to be flexible in the sense that things can happen, things can change. So you don't want to make it where your budget becomes a restriction because you don't have any flexibility in there. So when something does come up that you do need to take on, or something that comes up that you weren't expecting, you don't have any room to handle the unexpected. That's what goes back to what we talked about with the savings and emergency fund, which is why that should be built into your budget so you can have the flexibility to be able to absorb those emergency costs. So let's get into detail about that. So rule number one: create a comprehensive budget. Start by listing all sources of income and all expenses, including fixed costs, for example, your mortgage, utilities, and variable costs, for example, groceries, entertainment. Ensure your budget covers all financial aspects of your life. I wanted to put emphasis on that all, because we don't budget for just one thing. We don't just budget to buy a house. Move a little slow, but we ain't gonna let it stop us. You know what I'm saying? So number two, prioritize essential expenses. Allocate a significant portion of your budget to essential expenses such as housing, food, healthcare, and debt payments to ensure your basic needs are met before discretionary spending. Allocate a significant portion of your budget to essential expenses such as housing, food, healthcare, debt repayments, and ensure that your basic needs are met before discretionary spending. As we spoke on, needs before wants. Again, is it about the new shoes? Is it about the new clothes? Or is it about having a closet to put those new shoes and the new clothes in? That's what we have to think about. Rule number three: allocate for savings and emergency funds. Set aside a portion of your income for savings and emergency funds. Building a safety net will protect you from unforeseen financial challenges and provide peace of mind. If you know you have 6 months worth of mortgage payments in an emergency fund, when your job threatens to fire you or they're gonna have layoffs, you don't panic. It's easy. If you got 6 months worth of your bills, and I said mortgage payment, but I really should say 6 months worth of your bills, because you got to pay more than just your mortgage to be able to stay in your house. You need water, you need electricity, you need some, if you got gas or um, different things like that. You got to make sure you have money for groceries. You got to make sure you got money for your car note and for putting gas in your car. So if you got 6 months worth of reserves in your emergency fund, it takes away a lot of the crisis. It takes away a lot of the panic and the anxiety that comes with financial hardships. So that's why it's key to have a separate between savings and emergency fund and not grouping it all into one, because we can always find something to spend some money on. It's easy to spend money, especially in this country, in America. You can find they have something for you to buy every time you open your phone, every time you walk out your house, every time you drive on the highway. There's an advertisement that's saying, "Hey, buy this. This is the new thing. You need this. You need this." When in all actuality, you don't. It's just a want. It's just a desire. Rule number four. I'm moving a little slow here. We gotta get that straight. Track and review regularly. Monitor your spending and update your budget regularly to stay on track. Analyze your financial habits and make necessary adjustments to align with your financial goals. Keep in mind, your budget is not meant to restrict you. Your budget is a roadmap to get you to financial freedom. The budget is a roadmap or the backbone of financial freedom, but it's also a way to keep you on track, keep you honest, and help you actually achieve the goals of what you want. So keep that in mind. Review it regularly. Like I said, for me, you want to review your budget every month. If that's you have a monthly budget, review your budget at the end of every month. Review it every month, because things change. You may not have used as much gas this month, so you may have projected to spend $200 a month on gas, but you may have only used 150. So you really want to analyze it and say, okay, what can I have done better? Where can I take this extra money that I didn't spend? Now, where can I put it at? Because that budget is going to help you see, okay, well, I didn't spend that much on credit cards this month. I didn't spend that much on this money that I didn't spend. I can put it in my emergency fund. I can put it in my savings. I can give it to charity. I can do whatever it is that you feel you can do. But if you don't have a budget or a plan and you're not reviewing it regularly, then you're leaving a lot of wiggle room, or you're leaving a lot of stress as well. Not stress, I don't want to use the word stress, but you're causing yourself unnecessary stress towards the principal in your home so that you can own your home faster and eliminate that debt, pay less interest, put it towards your escrow so that you don't have that escrow shortage. We'll talk about that in another class, but being able to review your budget on a regular basis allows you to find those little hacks where you can get ahead in life and not just be living off bare minimums all the time. Rule number 5, be realistic and flexible. Being realistic about your income and expenses, avoiding overestimating or underestimating either. Additionally, be flexible to adapt your budget as life circumstances change, such as job changes or unexpected events. If you haven't looked at your budget, if you create a budget, then you have a child, you get married, and you got a family, and you don't look at that budget again, I can guarantee you your expenses have changed, and you're going to feel as if, where's my money going? Where's my money going? Because you've taken on some additional responsibilities that you have not planned for properly. Now, you may have planned to get married, but did you plan for the expenses for the wedding? Did you plan the expenses for when you got to be able to combine households and combine bills and this, that, and the third? Have you get into a car accident? Now, what you going to do? Now, the way that you make money may be different. Now, you need some flexibility in there because let's say you do want to start a business. When you first wrote your budget, you were just basing off your income from your job. Now you have aspirations to start a business. So do you have the flexibility in your budget to be able to put some money to the side for that business, to invest in that business, to grow that business, to start that business? Think about those things. So those are the 5 rules of creating a budget. Questions. I want to be able to give you about 10 questions here that you want to ask yourself or consider and think about while you're building your budget. And those questions are: what are my total monthly income sources, including salary, bonuses, and other earnings? What are my essential expenses such as mortgage or rent, utilities, groceries or food, transportation, and healthcare? Are there any discretionary expenses I can reduce or eliminate, such as dining out, entertainment, or subscription services not being used? Do I have any outstanding debts, such as credit card balances or student loans, that need to be factored into my budget? How much do I need to allocate for savings and emergency funds to ensure financial security? Have I considered irregular or annual expenses such as insurance premiums or property taxes and included them in my budget? What financial goals do I have, and how much should I set aside each month to achieve them? For example, buying a new home, saving for a down payment, or starting a business or a new income stream. Am I prepared for unexpected expenses or emergencies, and have I allocated funds for them in my budget? Have I accounted for my potential changes in income or expenses in the future, such as a job change or upcoming life events? And lastly, how often should I review and adjust my budget to stay on track with my financial goals and ensure its effectiveness? So these are 10 questions that you want to consider, think about, implement, and really mull over and really answer honestly with yourself so that you can really build the right budget for yourself, taking what we learned in this class today and be able to implement and be able to take on to the next level. Who checked in on the Instagram live, I appreciate y'all. Again, if you want to check out the presentation, I suggest that you go to the link in my bio, subscribe to the YouTube, come over to the Twitter, or follow me on Facebook. You can check the replay so you can see the presentation. The quality of what we're doing is going to increase and get better. I was trying out some new technology to be able to stream on all these platforms. So yes, bear with me. But again, if you're checking this replay out, or if you're checking this live out, I appreciate you and thank you. This is the first of many workshops that I'll be putting together so we can have more information. If you need help building your budget, text the word budget to 804-221-6226. If you need help building your budget, we're taking this information, but now we need to execute. If you need help executing on your budget, text the word budget to 804-221-6226, and I will arrange some time to speak with you, be able to go over your budget, help you get clear, answer any questions that you have when it comes to building your budget out so that you can be successful. My goal is to be able to help you. My goal is to be able to help you take out the fear and be able to execute on getting on your financial freedom, getting to your financial goals, and also ultimately being able to have home ownership be a priority and a goal that you can achieve in life, and something that we don't lose just based off of something that happened that we had no control over. As we all know, COVID-19 affected us all. Many of us, it hurt our pockets. Many of us are still recovering from COVID-19. But that doesn't mean that we don't come out of that. It doesn't mean we don't rise out of that crisis with confidence. So text the word budget to 804-221-6226, and I can help you with your budget today, or any day that you check this out. Just tap in. We'll schedule some time, and we'll make that happen for you. Again, shout out to those who made it to the end of this presentation. Text the word calculator to that same number, 804-221-6226. I have built a budget calculator. Simple budget calculator does the math for you. All you have to do is input your income. You have multiple streams of income. You just input your monthly income. You input all of your bills into this calculator. And if you need more room in it, if you have a lot of bills, it's more than what I kind of anticipated to put on there, let me know. We can adjust that. But text the word calculator to 804-221-6226, and you can get a free budget calculator today. I think I'll do this for all week. We can test this out to be able to help you build your budget. Like I said, I want to be able to eliminate all excuses when it comes to building a budget and being able to be financially secure and confident when it comes to home ownership, or just in general with your finances. Being able to do that, and I have a calculator for you. I have an Excel version and a Google Sheets version, whatever that works for you. And we can do this together. And as well, like I said, if you need help utilizing that, just text the word budget. We can make that happen for you. Again, my number is 804-221-6226. I appreciate you, family, for tapping in. This is the end of the Budgeting with Confidence workshop. Shout out to everybody who tapped in. A round of applause for y'all who stuck around through the whole presentation. It's been about an hour and a half. So I planned for 2 hours because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take me to get through this. So this was beautiful. If you received any good game that you received out of this particular presentation, feel free to drop it in the comments. Tell us what points stuck out for you. What are you going to implement in your own process? What are you going to implement in your budget? Are you going to start budgeting? Do you need help with budgeting? Put it all in the comments, or just text me 804-221-6226. Text the word budget. I can help you build it. If you already are comfortable building a budget and you just need a template to be able to help you put it on paper or put it on your computer and be able to utilize it and review it, text the word calculator again to 804-221-6226. I appreciate you, family. As always, it's about thinking, it's about learning, it's about growing. Think, learn, grow. If you're thinking, you can find an opportunity to learn. If you're learning, you can create an opportunity to grow. And anything that's not growing is dying. That could be your mindset. That can be your finances. That can be your perspective. That can be your relationships in life. If you're not growing or working actively to grow these things, you are ultimately working on their demise. So tap in before you tap out. It's your brother, Mr. West. I appreciate you, family. Tap in before you tap out. Peace.